What does Mueller want with Roger Stone? How does it tie into what he may be looking at with the Trump team? Finally, we have someone who can help us get answers. Kristin Davis. She got the nickname the Manhattan Madam during the Elliot Spencer scandal. She's also a close friend of Roger Stone. She worked for the Trump campaign and has been a focus of the Russia probe. That has been a focus of the Russia probe. Kristin Davis, thank you for taking the opportunity.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
So, when you got in there, how long were you in there before the grand jury?
About an hour.
All right. What was the line of questioning like?
I think that's what's concerning, is that it was very one-sided. There's obviously no defense attorney in there. The special counsel's office has a rapport with these jurors, and the questions were very leading. So,
like what? Give me an example. Because you're allowed to, legally, you are not beholden to them.
Right, I know.
It's not like you're a juror on a case.
I know, but the problem is they don't like you to use your First Amendment right to freedom of speech. I was issued a subpoena originally for August 3rd. Then when they found out I talked to the press, accidentally, they moved that up a week, giving me 4 days notice with a 2-year-old and saying, we don't care what happens to your child. Figure it out. You can talk to the press. You can figure out how to get here with your 2-year-old.
All right. So be that as it may, you are not one to shy away from controversy or conflict, and I know you're not going to let somebody shut you up. So what kind of thing did they ask?
I think they're really genuinely concerned about whether or not any collusion happened with Russia. And so their line of questioning really did revolve around whether or not this happened. I particularly don't have any knowledge of it. I didn't work for Roger Stone in 2016. So, I answered truthfully on those questions, and
you better.
Of course, I would not commit perjury, and I don't want to impede their investigation. I actually, if this is legitimately something they feel that has happened, then they should go forward, and I don't want to jeopardize that.
I hear you, but no question that they have concerns that Roger Stone may have done something that he shouldn't have done.
I think they're concerned with all of the people in the 2016 campaign, all of the high-profile names that we've seen come across, and all of the people that have worked for Roger. And since Roger was such an integral part of the campaign, they're really following all avenues.
But they didn't think you had done anything.
No.
So there was no question about, we think you did this. None of that.
None of that.
No exposure for you as far as you know.
No exposure for me in any capacity.
Or your attorneys have explained. None.
Correct.
Okay. But Roger, they know you know him, and
right.
What kinds of questions were they asking you about? Who he knew, what he did, what kinds of avenues did they go down? I
think there's the general concern for some things that he seemed to predict. His tweets, the Podesta tweet, has been the subject of much controversy all over the media, and also puts him in a position to wonder how he was able to predict. And I think that's also taken out of context. He's talked about it before. He said the Podestas. Most people take that S off and to say Podesta.
The timing was still pretty uncanny. I've spoken to Roger about this directly. As we learn more, he's always welcome to come back here and make his side of the case. But what was your answer to that?
Well, and I think Roger has publicly said that his intermediary was Randy Credico. And I know that since my meeting, Randy Credico has been subpoenaed. So I think that there's some truth there, that his intermediary was Randy Credico, and hopefully the truth will come out in terms of that.
You are not a particular Credico fan. Is that a fair statement?
That's a very fair statement.
Why not?
I ran him for Senate in 2010. He started a fist fight at one of my events with Roger.
Who won?
Of course, Roger Stone won.
Really? Were there actually blows thrown?
I think so.
And
I think
landed?
So. I don't know. I had left at that point in time. I just saw a video.
That's a very careful answer. So you know he won, but you don't know if anybody hit anybody else? Come on, Davis.
I just heard after the fact that there was commotion.
So you don't like Credico?
I don't like Credico.
Do you think he tried to set Roger Stone up?
It might be. They've been frenemies for a very long time. I've personally witnessed his hostility at a number of my events. I've read some of the emails he sent threatening Roger.
Then why would Roger Stone... Now, he is not, right, he's no stranger to doing things with people he doesn't like, but why would he listen to Randy Credico about WikiLeaks if he doesn't like him or trust him?
Well, I think Randy Credico had some information that seemed credible at the time, and so...
Do you remember telling Roger, don't listen to this guy?
I'm pretty sure I said something to the extent of, why are you friends with that douchebag? And I said the same thing in the grand jury room.
You won't give me any specifics about the questions, but that word, you're more than... Thank you for injecting that to the audience. Appreciate it. So you told him, watch out for this guy. But Roger believed he might have known something about what was happening with WikiLeaks.
Well, Roger tends to give people numerous chances. And so if you come to him and, apologize a little bit and want to work with him on something new, he'll forgive you and move forward. He's an understanding guy.
Do you think that Roger Stone had contact with WikiLeaks and knew what they had?
No, he did not. And
How do you know for sure?
My family and I have had dinner with him and at that time in 2016 and asked him these questions before any of this was an issue. And the response from him at that time was, I've not had any direct contact with Julian Assange. So before this was such a colossal undertaking and event here, we were already getting straight answers from him.
Sam Nunberg says differently, in as much as he says that Roger was much more direct and strong in terms of saying that he thought he had some access and knowledge.
Well, I think that there was an email that he said jokingly to Nunberg saying, I'm having dinner with Julian Assange. But that was a joke, and Sam Nunberg tends to call you 50 times in the course of 10 minutes and email consistently, annoyingly. And so I think Roger was just putting him off and just making a joke like, please leave me alone.
You don't believe he ever had plans to have dinner with Julian Assange?
No, he's not left the country in that year. So, I mean, his passport would show that.
Now, I remember back before either of us knew better, or at least certainly I didn't, when I was talking to Roger about Guccifer and him talking to them. He didn't believe anything about Guccifer was real or anything like that, and whatever he was talking about on Twitter, he didn't think was a big deal. But since then, the intelligence community has shown that they believe that Guccifer is exactly what we were afraid it was, which is a front for Russian hackers. Do you believe Roger Stone knew who he was dealing with in Guccifer?
Absolutely not. And half the time, Roger Stone wasn't in charge. There were numerous hands in his Twitter. He was getting so many tweets. There was 5 or 6 people helping manage that process, automated systems. Roger's not particularly technologically savvy with some of the things going on in technology nowadays.
Now, for the audience's edification, you are biased. You know you like Roger Stone. He is more than a former employer. He's godfather to your child. So personally, you care about him and you want to protect him. Did you come away from your session today believing that the investigators are coming for Roger Stone?
I did. I think that there's cause for concern based on that they just want to believe something happened, which I don't believe it did.
Why do you feel that? Because you're with them, you're with the pros. You're there in front of the grand jury. This is the real game. This isn't spin. This isn't people talking to me.
Right.
How did they come across to you?
Well, there's a relationship between the special counsel prosecutor and those juror members.
100%. They're there for them.
Right.
It's their show.
And he's
it's
making
not supposed to be
a
trial.
Right. And he's making jokes. He has a rapport with them, and he's able to, lead these questions in a negative manner.
But he's allowed to do that. It was a he?
Right, yes.
Okay. They're allowed to do that. Usually the rules of evidence, they get objections and they get jammed up and a judge would have to decide. Not here. It is the prosecutor's show. So leading questions are okay, but you're saying they betrayed an intention.
Correct. And those types of questions, even though they're okay, it doesn't mean they're right. It doesn't mean you're sitting with an educated jury pool. I'm not saying that they're uneducated, but it could be a mixed bag, right? That's the whole point in having a jury. They are a mixed bag. So now you're saying questions for people who don't really have the background. Mm-hmm. They only know what you're saying, and you're leading them down a path, maybe trying to tie in this notorious figure that Roger Stone is from Get Me Roger Stone and Win at All Costs, when that's just a public persona. And a statement like, let's say, win at all costs, doesn't mean that he would go out and commit some huge, colossal crime to impair the democracy of our country. It just means in a campaign, this is sort of what you do. So everything's taken out of context, pushed down the path that they want it to be down.
Did they ask you any questions, the grand jurors?
They asked me a few.
What was it about for
Mostly
them?
just my relationship with Roger Stone, the sort of work that I do for him, I mean, we've talked about that. He's one of my closest friends. Both him and his wife are my child's godparents. So they're friends, as well as I do work for him on occasion.
Was there any question they asked you that stumped you?
No, no.
People in this audience will know you as the Manhattan Madam. That is in your rearview mirror.
That is.
There is no more Manhattan Madam
That was
for
so
you.
10 years ago.
What do you do now?
Right now I'm opening a nail art boutique in Harlem called Bombshell Beauty Lab. We open on Friday, and I'm just being a mom, working, hanging out.
And involved in one of the biggest investigations in American history.
I know. How do I manage that?
Kristin Davis, thank you for your candor and coming on to talk to us.
Thank you, Chris.
Appreciate it. Be well.